Hi everyone, it's me, Tim, and today I want to talk about marketing, and specifically marketing on the Outer Worlds. Now, I've had a few other videos about the Outer Worlds, and I know people want me to talk more about its development and the team and its design, but the thing is, a lot of the things I would talk about are still ongoing with Outer Worlds 2 and proprietary, so there's not as much I can talk about that game. So I've gone and talked about a lot of my other games, but then it occurred to me. There was recently some news, you may have seen it, about the Outer Worlds hitting 5 million sales. Now, that doesn't include Game Pass, because a lot of people on Xbox played it on Game Pass. So that's not including people who played it that way. This is people who bought, I think they call it sell-through, people who bought and have a copy of the Outer Worlds, whether it's physical or digital. And that's a lot. I think it's safe to say Outer Worlds is my best-selling game ever. Now, I have a video where we can talk about games quality versus popularity versus sales and all this, and they're correlated, but they're not causation. But it made me want to talk about the marketing, because the marketing on this game was a little different. And I liked it. And then I'll talk about why it was important if you're thinking about making your own game. So, my early games, especially in the 80s and early 90s, had marketing, but not a lot. When your game's coming out, you might get an ad. I mean, early on, for like Grand Slam Bridge, that might be an ad in Byte magazine, because there weren't magazines specifically for computer games. Later on, CGW, we got that, Computer Gaming World. So, like Bard's Tale Construction Set probably got an ad in something like Computer Gaming World. I know, though, it was reviewed by Dragon Magazine from TSR, because I have a copy of the review, and they liked it. They gave it 5 stars out of 5 stars, which I thought was very generous. And then I think, like Rags to Riches, I think got an ad in Computer Gaming World. And then with Fallout, we got, I think 2 or 3 ads. But my involvement in most of these games was nothing more than what was called sign-off. In other words, they had meetings apparently about these things. I wasn't there. They would put together something, and then it would go into a room when it was all made up. And this is a physical paper mock-up. You would go into this room, and only producers were allowed in the room, and people, I guess, in marketing, and people who were directors and admin. And you would look at it. You would look at this paper mock-up, and you'd look at everything. You'd look at spelling. You'd look at what the phrases were. You'd look at the fonts, the images that were on, and you'd sign off on it if you agreed. And you were partially, sometimes mostly, there for accuracy. Like, oh, this is not a screenshot from our game. This is a mock-up we made. Or, oh, we don't use this phrase in this game. But mostly we were there to just sign off on it and say, yep, this has approval to go out. And then it would go out. Let me tell you, the Outer Worlds was very, very, very different than that. It was different in a way that was the first time I'd ever really experienced anything like this. First of all, we had an enormous budget for marketing. And because Private Division was part of Take-Two, there was a team that was dedicated to Outer Worlds. And they involved us in the marketing campaigns. I mean, they would have meetings, sometimes over video, but sometimes they'd fly out because they wanted that one-on-one. They wanted to sit down and just talk with us about, what do you think is important in the game? What do you think the tone of the marketing campaign should be? And this is before anything got started, which from my point of view was wildly different than what has happened in the past, where people come and go, here's your marketing campaign, what do you think? This was, hey, we looked at your game, we played it, we've noticed brand slogans and characters. Like, we did all that without any idea towards marketing. If you think we made the Moon Man because we're like, hey, that'll be marketed well. No, we thought he was funny. Especially when the writer did the Moon Man in the helmet. That's a funny character. His name is Martin. Go to the ground. See, I'm so bad with names. Go to the ship in orbit and go check out Martin. You can't miss him. He's got a giant moon man head. But the slogans we wrote that just were funny and made us laugh, like it's not the best choice, it's Spacer's choice, were things that the people from Take Two Marketing really wanted to pick up on. And I love that. I love that it got picked up on like that and was used within the ads themselves. And we had lots of meetings about, rather than them inventing stuff, them wanting to pull things that we had invented from the game to use in the marketing. And they actually hired, and I'm going to name them because they were so good. There's a company in LA called Buddha Jones. They were phenomenal. They played the game and watched gameplay footage. There was one guy on the team who had played several of our older games, and he was super excited to be on this. He had asked to be on it because he goes, I want to be involved in the marketing campaign for this game. And what was really interesting is the first time they came down, I thought they were going to pitch us things, but they came down in person. They just wanted to talk to us about the game. They wanted to talk about the nature of the game and its humor, because this was a new IP and there's something really, really hard to market. It is when your game is brand new. Sure, if you're making a Call of Duty marketing campaign, you literally have dozen games to pull on. People know what Call of Duty is. Nobody knew what The Outer Worlds was, and it had a very specific kind of humor, and they wanted to get it. They really, really wanted to dig down into The Outer Worlds and see what made it tick, what it was like. And they ended up making so many good trailers. The advertising trailers for Outer Worlds were made by Buddha Jones. They were so good. Really good footage. They loved when we started showing them the science weapons and things like that. Some of those showed up. We didn't want to give them all away, but some of those showed up. Or just people, explosions and people flying, people being chased by monsters. It was great. And they also picked really good music choices. I mean, if you looked at those trailers and those ads, they have really good music choices. Never in a million years would I have thought I'd make a game trailer that would have Blister in the Sun as its marketing song. But it was great. And what I really loved about Buddha Jones was it took them a while. It's hard to get humor, but they got the humor. So what they gave back to us as ideas for trailers and songs and elements to show in those trailers from the game were spot on. That kind of working together, I know there's a word for it, but that kind of coherence between a development team and a marketing team, in my experience, was somewhat rare. Usually the marketing team wanted to come in and tell us what they were doing. This was a marketing team coming in saying, what did you guys do? What are the salient things to pull out that we can show people in 15 seconds? And that's the other thing that's tough about marketing. They had to make 15-second trailers, 30-second trailers, and 60-second trailers because they were used in different places for different reasons. If you think it's easy to make a 15-second trailer about a brand new IP, it is not. And these guys figured out how to do that. So that was amazing. So you're probably watching this going, what does this have to do with me making my games? Well, as time has gone on in the industry, and there are so many games out there, discoverability is a huge, huge issue. There are so many games on Steam that if you think you're just going to release your game and the accolades will pour in because it's a good game, no, that just doesn't happen anymore. You may make the best game in the world, but if nobody knows about it and they can't find it easily, no one's going to play it. So I said before, and I'll repeat it, and I will repeat it in a harsh way so you guys hear it. It has never been easier to make games than right now because engines are free. There's art and code available for free. There are so many tutorials you can watch. It's never been easier to make games than right now. In fact, I would go on to say if you're not making a game, you don't want to. You just want to talk about making a game. You don't want to make one. Having said that, because it is so easy to make games, people are making a ton of games. A ton of them. That means it's really hard for people to find your games. You go on Steam, Epic, GOG, there are just so many games. And you try to reduce it to genre, and there's still so many games. And you try to say, well, show me just what came out in the last month. There are still so many games. So this is where good marketing comes in. If you have a really good marketing campaign with really good people who got what your game was, what will happen is people will see the ads and then they'll go to watch trailers. Or, Steam lets you buy a game and give it back in 2 hours if you didn't like it. Because our ads were very much like what the game was going to be. I don't think anybody felt like they were misled by our advertising campaign, which I've seen happen where you see an ad for something and you're like, oh, this is going to have a lot of choice or player agency or whatever, and you don't really have that. I think our marketing campaign was really good at pulling out the essence of Outer Worlds and giving it to people. And that made the Outer Worlds easy for people to hear about, to find if they wanted to buy it. We had a lot of streamers play our game, and people could watch that and see what it was like to play, which is really important. It all boils down to the same thing, though. Really good marketing will make your game more discoverable, which these days is more important than. I don't say it's not more important than making a good game, but those two things go hand in hand now. You have to make a really good game, and then you have to have really good marketing. In fact, for a lot of games, those budgets are equivalent. And I know a few games where the marketing budget was bigger than the development budget. And there's a reason for that. The number of games is not going down, and you have to compete with everyone else who's out there. So, what's the takeaway from this? If you're making a game, think about how you want to market it. Think about how you want that marketing to reach the people who you think are the most likely to buy your game. Because that's a really hard thing to do these days. And I think if you can find a really good marketing team, PR firm, they can really get you ahead. It costs money, yes, but I think it's money well spent. Anyway, hope that helps.